Hello, my name's Pastor Adam from Cleveleys Community Church. We've got Ken here going to be sharing his story. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing very well, Adam.
Good. Right, our first question, just to give us a bit of a background of your life, mate.
Well, I was brought up in a family of a naval family. We went all around the country, and it was pretty difficult that when I was a young Blackpool lad, then going back into the south, coming back to the north with a northern accent, southern accent, sorry, and then coming back to the north. So schooling was hard. I learned to fight a lot because of my southern accent, and I was a northerner, but it brought me up pretty tough. I learned how to handle myself and everything. Life was pretty tough with my dad, naval officer, you can imagine. Brought up pretty tough, but my mum was a Christian. My brother went on to become a pastor at 21, but didn't believe any of that rubbish I used to say. It was rubbish. But as I went through my life, I met my wife. We lived down the south. We had two babies, then a third one in Blackpool. And for 25 years, life was pretty okay. I was always searching for something though, but I didn't know what. My brother used to pray with me, and I used to say, I used to sort of mock him in a way. I used to love my brother, and I still do. We're very deep, me and my brother. We grew up as kids, always talking about God, but I wouldn't have it. I was always a rebel. And life was pretty good, and I went through a tough. After 25 years, the kids flew the nest. I'd done my job, and then I'd had a lot of problems with my wife, and I eventually suffered depression quite a lot in my life. I think the kids kept me off that, so the depression got to a pretty bad stage. Cut a long story short, drink was involved with medication. It used to send me crazy, and before I knew where I was into oblivion, and it happened quite a few times. So eventually I went into a Christian centre in Birmingham called Battelle. Fantastic organisation. It saved many lives. It saved mine. I was there quite a long time, became a responsible there. I worked hard in there, but I felt God calling me. He said, "You've got to go, you've got to leave, and there's other things you need to be doing now." And I, I wasn't quite, I always felt that God was telling me this, but I weren't quite born again. My brother was praying for me at times, but I still couldn't quite get it. And then in one of my serious episodes, God burst into my life in a crazy way. Crazy way. I just felt his presence. I didn't call him, but I felt him, a presence. I was very ill, and he said, "I've got a plan for you." And wow, I just thought, and I felt that day I became born again. I don't know exactly the exact date or time of that, but it was about 15, 20 years ago. And wow, the journey just began then, and I just it just felt like a new human being. My whole life started to change, things started to go well, but then I slid back. I've just recently wrote a song appertaining to what happened in my life called Broken Chains, and I was fighting against it because I thought I would know. I thought I knew how to do things, and every time I tried to go anywhere, down I went. A bit like the wise and foolish builder. That was me. I was a foolish builder. I thought I was hearing God, but I wasn't, and it dragged me right the way down. Again, kept falling, kept back up, kept falling until eventually God broke the chains in me, and this to cut a long story short, I lost my wife, I lost my family through depression and illness. And even though I was a Christian, I thought, well, that's me, I'm on the road to, but it wasn't. The enemy is very, very powerful. He comes in many guises, and he tricked and fooled me many times, and down I went again. It's a bit like a boxer in the ring. I was constantly floored. But I got a vision once of the great corner man, and I looked up, and there's God in my corner. He's always there. And I've realized more that now I've built the right foundations, that I'm walking the right way. It doesn't mean I'm going to fall off the path. Yeah, I will. but I'm walking the right way. I was never walking it. I was going sideways, backwards. And for this last 3 or 4 years of my life, I've met a new girlfriend, got a new flat. I've got my own business this last 2 years. I've got money. I live a great life. I have a great hobbies with fishing with my pastor. You know, we're great friends. He's like a son to me. He's been more to me than probably more of my family have ever been. And that's a tough thing to say. But since then, my family have all come back in my life when they've seen how well I've done. And people have noticed, people have got in the taxi that saw me years ago and said, wow, what's changed in you? One man asked, what's happened? You're just a total different human being. And I smiled and I said, wow, that's the nicest thing you've said to me. He said, what is it? I said, you'd laugh if I told you. He said, well, go on, try me. I said, it's Jesus. And he gave me a look and he said, wow, do you really believe that? I said, absolutely. He said, but I said, what have you got to lose by calling his name? No one ever needs to know. And Mark said to me, big, robust man he was, and he listened to me. And he said, you know, I might give that a shout. I said, what can you lose? But what can you gain? You gain eternal life. You know, God is our life, our breath, everything we are. And I would say this last 4 or 5 years I've slipped. I'm not saying I haven't backslid in the last 3 years once, but it wasn't bad. But it was enough for me. God said he broke the chains in me. And I've written a song just recently that I'm going to be singing, and it's about that. Because he can break the chains in everyone watching this. And yes, I lost everything. 40 years of marriage, 40 years to a wonderful woman. And she once said to me, I want to grow old with you. And I just knew it was never going to happen. But she's now got her own life. My kids are all back in my life. I'm more blessed. I only talked to my girlfriend today and said how blessed I am. I cannot believe. And still more and more things are coming. But I must always remember that the enemy watches, waits, and he's prowling all the time, and he will prowl. But while we're united with each other, we can fend him off. We've got the cornerman, the greatest cornerman that ever lived. So when we get battered and bruised and knocked on the floor, look at him and get up, and give him a good whack. Because he's the one. He's the one, the Redeemer. He is number one in everything we do, in every breath we take, and lifts us up on the last day.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Kenny, for sharing your story with us. God bless.